Chapter 4. Bullies. Verona was aware that their parents struggled with constant frustration and didn't know how to communicate effectively with Lincoln. It wasn't that he couldn't talk. His parents believed, for some reason, he chose not to. At school, he faced challenges in conversing with classmates and, essentially, refrained from participation. Lincoln's unique habits and small stature made him a prime target for bullies. Verona did her utmost to defend him. But this was a difficult task because she was a relatively petite girl herself, and she couldn't be with Lincoln at all times. She attempted to empower her brother to stand up for himself, but Lincoln, gripped by fear and lacking confidence, seemed unable to confront his tormentors. His default solution was to just turn on his music and turn off the rest of the world. Verona, however, was not one to give up. Despite the toll it took on her, she was entirely dedicated to caring for her younger brother. She had no time for sports, learning new instruments, or making her own friends. The thought of leaving him vulnerable to bullies sent chills down her spine. Occasionally, she even went so far as to deliberately fail a test or two, hoping to divert her parents' attention from Lincoln's struggles. It wasn't like school was challenging for her in the first place, as she often knew the correct answers, even before her teachers posed the questions. It appeared as if her primary purpose in life was to watch over Lincoln, a responsibility she undertook willingly. That was the kind of sister she was, considering Lincoln to be her best friend. Around her, Lincoln could be funny, sweet, and somewhat normal, or as normal as he ever got. She made it her life's mission to draw him out of his shell, vowing to protect him until it happened. She genuinely believed he could achieve great things. Verona sensed that Lincoln was unusually quiet today, even for Lincoln, knowing it was the last bus ride of the school year, the place where Lincoln experienced the most pain. Unable to suppress her feelings, she blurted out, "Mom, can you please drive us to school today?" Jillian wasn't having it. She frowned and said, "You're old enough to take care of yourselves, and besides, I have work today." "Mom, please," Verona whined. "It's just one day, and it's the last day of school. You don't even know what happens on the bus." "Verona, stop being so dramatic. Riding the bus won't kill you." Knowing the conversation was over, Verona angrily grabbed Lincoln's hand and stomped out the door. The two stepped out into sweltering heat, an oddity for late spring in northern Illinois, but strangely common lately. Verona and Lincoln peeled off their jackets and marched the 2 blocks to the bus stop. Lincoln was begrudgingly stomping behind Verona, upset that she had taken his headphones away. When the bus arrived, he reached his hand into her backpack, quickly shoving the headphones back onto his ears. They walked up the stairs and chose a seat together toward the front, resting against each other as the bus slowly rolled along. A few stops later, Aaron Goodman, Billy Crump, and Donnie Powers ominously sauntered onto the bus. These 3 delinquents were like a group of sharks, just waiting to take a bite out of their next victim. And Lincoln was their favorite target. Although terrified, Lincoln never wanted to show it. Fighting back tears, he slouched down into the seat and tried his best not to look in their direction. As he looked away, Billy ripped Lincoln's coat out of his hands and decided to play a game of keep-away, tossing it to his friends. Lincoln just sat there with tears forming in the corners of his eyes, tilting his head down so no one could see. Verona, however, angrily got up and wrestled the coat out of Donnie's dirty little hands. As she snatched it back, she heard a loud tear and looked down to see the torn coat sleeve. The boy's laughter was deafening, and Billy fist-bumped Aaron as he took his seat. Verona sat back down and handed Lincoln his damaged jacket, avoiding his eyes. For a moment, she entertained the idea of advising Lincoln to assert himself but ultimately decided against it. She had expressed it countless times before to no avail, and it was the final day of school. She nestled into her seat, hoping the bus ride would be swift and it would all come to an end. However, that, of course, was too much to ask for. The three boys consistently opted to sit directly behind the destined siblings, even though no seats were assigned. Just as the bus pulled into the parking lot, Aaron tore off a strip of green duct tape used to conceal the tears in the old school bus's green vinyl seats. He positioned the sticky side of the tape outward in his hand and proceeded to wind up, delivering a hard slap to the back of Lincoln's head. The resounding smack echoed throughout the bus. To Lincoln, it resembled a gunshot. His head snapped forward, and his headphones went flying. His vision even blacked out for a few seconds, and he saw stars as he slowly raised his head. He refrained from shouting or making any sound, not wanting to give the boys the satisfaction of acknowledging the pain. He remained silent, sitting against the bus seat as the obnoxious piece of green tape moved around on his head. The boys erupted in laughter. As Verona faced forward, she didn't anticipate the attack until she heard the slap and witnessed Lincoln's head jerking forward. Unlike her little brother, Verona was not as composed. "That's the last straw," she muttered under her breath, standing up in anger. Despite being outnumbered and smaller in size, Verona leaped out of her seat, launching herself at the three boys, swinging fists and clawing at their faces. Verona would have likely gouged out Aaron's eyes if not for the fast-acting Mr. Ripple, the school bus driver, who parked the bus, sprang out of his seat, and caught the enraged little assailant in midair. "That's enough," he yelled, instructing the three little criminals to march. He held the struggling Verona, who kicked and screamed as the bullies were allowed to exit the bus. Lincoln put his headphones back on, realizing he had green duct tape stuck to the back of his head. Feeling everyone's eyes on him, he quickly ripped it off like a Band-Aid. The process was painful because there was still a lot of his blonde hair stuck to the tape, and he bit his lower lip to halt the tears filling his eyes. Verona was seething with rage and eager to retaliate. She clenched her hands into fists, observing as Aaron, Billy, and Donnie ran away, laughing hysterically. Aaron looked back and smirked at Lincoln, and just as he turned back around, he collided face first into the corner of the large black and yellow wooden sign that read, "Washington Elementary School." The sign was positioned just to the left of the sidewalk in front of the school's entrance, and the smiling bobcat looked like it was mocking him. Aaron felt the blood pouring into his mouth, which immediately wiped the smile off his face. He grabbed his nose and ran into the school, holding his ballooning face, crying like a baby. Back on the bus, Mr. Ripple's mouth fell open, while Verona and Lincoln smiled.